Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Eric Zinger. I'm here on behalf of the Hartsdale Neighborhoods Association, and I'm here with Hartsdale Fire District Commissioner and candidate for Commissioner Thomas Maguire. We'll be interviewing him as there is a contested election for the one open seat on the Hartsdale Fire District Commissioner election. That election is going to be held this Tuesday. That's this Tuesday, December, just confirming the date, December 13th. Voting is from 3 to 9 p.m. at the fire station on South Central Avenue, right next to Fountain Diner. That's 3 to 9 p.m. at the fire station on South Central Avenue, right next to Fountain Diner. On the election is the bond referendum, which if you are not familiar with, I encourage you to check out on our YouTube page, the forum that we held with the chief, and you can learn all about that as well as the election here. So I want to start by thanking Thomas for joining us today. And with that, we'll go ahead and kick off. So Thomas, thank you for being with us tonight. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for commissioner?
Sure. Thank you for having me, Eric. My name is Tom Maguire. As stated, I'm running for fire commissioner. I have been living in Hartsdale now for 6 years. A little about myself first. 6 years, I actually grew up in Westchester. I grew up in Ardsley. I lived in Manhattan for several years, moved to Hartsdale about 6 years ago. Married my wife, Joanna. We have a young daughter, 5-month-old, named Margot. My wife is actually very active in the community. She's on the board of the Junior League. And I watch her get involved in the community and help to better the community. And I've been looking for an opportunity to do that as well. And last year it presented itself as part of the fire department commissioner. So I did run. It was uncontested, so I did win. And I've been on that seat now for a year and ultimately running again on Tuesday and looking for everyone's support to continue. Second part of the question, Eric, was why am I running? More specifically, again, two things. One, an area to really get involved. I think there is some civil responsibility that my wife certainly has more than I do, but trying to really contribute to the community that I feel like that we're really a part of. And two, being on the board is an area where I think I can bring some of my skills from my professional life to bear on some of the decisions being made here for the betterment of this community. So as background, and I guess I'll jump to the next question. I currently work for NASDAQ. I run their product division and for their information services. So it's data. I run investment data. Graduated Villanova, undergrad, went to NYU Stern for graduate school, MBA in finance and strategy. And ultimately, I do not have a background in the fire services. I have family in the fire department. My brother is in New York. But ultimately I went a different path. But I do think that there is real opportunity for me with a different perspective on budget, on financing, on decision making, on creating kind of governmental structures for longevity of the betterment of the community. I do think I bring something unique and ultimately, something that I'm looking to continue to do for the next 5 years.
Great. So the other item on the ballot besides the election is a referendum to bond to purchase the property directly abutting the fire station on South Washington Avenue. Can you tell me a little bit about, you're obviously on the board now and came up with that proposal. Can you tell me a little bit about that, if you support the proposal and, how you see that fitting into the long-term future of the district?
Sure. I voted recently to actually bring this bond to vote. I think it's important that the community has the opportunity to weigh in. Also, generally, my opinion is this. When you have an environment where you see a pretty linear expense growth on a very non-linear income or tax base, it sets up a recipe for disaster. So I think we really need to start thinking creatively and strategically about how we position ourselves, not only now, but into the future. There are significant problems with the station house on Central Avenue. So I understand that. I understand that the decision is going to have to be made a difficult, potentially difficult decision on behalf of the community in the near term, 3, 5, 7 years. That said, I do not, I will be voting no on this proposal for the reason that I believe it is not our position as the fire department or as a member of the board to speculate on something that far out without enough information to really make a sound strategic decision for what's best for this community. So ultimately, I understand the arguments, and I do believe that a time will come in the near term future where decisions need to be made about how to structure the fire department for the benefit of the entire Hartsdale community. But I do not think that there are too many variables in play right now to really speculate that this is the right decision. And because of that, I think it is my responsibility as a voter to ultimately to vote no.
Okay, thank you. So that's kind of a natural segue to the next question I wanted to ask, which is, what's one thing you think either the district or the board of commissioners, what's one thing that you think that we could be doing better at the moment?
It's a great question. And when you texted it to me, I've thought about it a lot. The one area where I really think, and it kind of, again, it is a good segue. The one area where I do think we as a board and have to be better is to really be more creative with how we allocate capital, more creative as an organization, as a community, but where we're prioritizing where we're spending money. As the case of the firehouse, putting up a new firehouse in the exact position, it is an idea and certainly solves some of the issues, but doesn't solve potentially all of the issues that we currently face ourselves. Budget overruns, tax increases that have been consistent. Again, there's a lot of things that we can do more creatively when it comes to deploying that capital for the betterment of the community. Perhaps a more optimal solution than replacing the footprint that we already have, or continuing to kind of build what we've seen work historically, right? So when I some of the things that we've done or I've done, I've really challenged the board to think about, how do we look at redundant services? Is Hartsdale offering things that potentially Westchester County can offer? Are we doing things? Are we offering services that potentially can be shared around among surrounding communities or other fire districts? So really, ultimately, there are hard decisions that need to be made about where to allocate capital, where to allocate the taxpayer money, as part of the fire services. And one area where I think we need to really focus is taking a step back and asking those hard questions now before we find ourselves in a circumstance where we have to make drastic decisions because the external variables have shifted against us, right? There's so many unknowns that maintaining status quo will ultimately lead us down a path where we could see disruption to the level of service and standards that we expect from the Hartsdale Fire Service.
So then what would you say is one thing that you think that we do really well and that you'd like to make sure that, we keep at the same level or keep the same, or that you're proud of? What's one thing, kind of to offset that you think we're doing really well?
Yeah. I mean, I have a 5-month-old and we went out today and met Santa, when the Babysitters Club there, that started, forever ago, is still well attended. This fire service has a real footprint in the community. And that's something that should be applauded, right? You don't see that everywhere. You don't see that connection with, the civil service to the community that it serves. You do see that here. That's obviously maintaining that level of service, maintaining that level of commitment to the community is something that we need to continue to prioritize and to continue to invest in. And it's an area that I think that this, Hartsdale Fire Department does spectacularly.
Okay, well, this has been a great interview with Thomas Maguire. Thomas, any final words or anything you'd like to just close with before we wrap it up?
No, I mean, I encourage everyone to go out and vote. Obviously, you have a selection in who will represent you coming up on Tuesday. I encourage everyone to get involved, get active. There are open meetings on Tuesdays, every second Tuesday of every month. Get involved. Come to the firehouse on West Hartsdale Avenue. There are opportunities to become engaged. This is the area where I've chosen to do that for my community, but ultimately, Eric, you're very active. There's a lot of areas to get involved. So I would encourage you to do that and exercise, your opinion on Tuesday and come out and vote not only for commissioner, but also on the bond proposal. So that would be it.
Yeah, there's definitely no shortage of need for volunteers for these kinds of things. So thank you for your work as a commissioner, and good luck on Tuesday. And thank you for spending the time with us here today.
All right. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate it.
Thank you.